People don't always lie with words. Sometimes the truth is in what they don't say, in the shifts in their tone, or even in the way they look away when you're asking the hard questions. As men, trust is the cornerstone of how we build relationships, at work, at home, and with friends. But how often have you found yourself blindsided by someone you thought had your back? Maybe a partner bent the truth, a co-worker exaggerated, or a friend left out details to save face. Lies aren't always blatant, and the ones closest to us can be the hardest to catch. I've been there. I ignored the signs because I didn't want to confront the possibility, but Stoicism teaches us something crucial. It's better to face uncomfortable truths than to live in comfortable illusions. In this video, we're diving into 7 key signs someone is lying to you. These aren't the obvious red flags like avoiding eye contact or stuttering. No, we're talking about the subtle tactics, dodging questions, over-defensiveness, or even the way someone laughs off a serious topic that liars use to stay under the radar. And here's the twist. You don't have to confront every lie you uncover. This is about learning to observe and decide, calmly, logically, how to respond in a way that protects your integrity and peace of mind. Stick around, because by the end of this, you'll have the tools not only to spot dishonesty, but to handle it with the confidence and calm of a true Stoic. Let's get started. Section 1. The power of redirection. When someone is lying, their words might betray them, but their actions or lack of engagement often shout the truth louder. Have you ever asked someone a direct question only to find them steering the conversation faster than a cabbie avoiding traffic? Suddenly, you're not talking about the missing $20, but about how the neighbor's dog barked all night. It's subtle, clever, and if you're not paying attention, disarming. Here's the Stoic take. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. In moments like these, keep your mind steady." Their quick subject shift isn't just a tactic, it's an evasion, and you're in control of whether you let them drive the conversation off-road or bring it back to the main question. Let me give you a personal example. Years ago, I worked with a colleague who, let's say, had a habit of forgetting project deadlines. One day, I confronted him about a specific delay. His response, "Oh, did you hear the news about the new coffee shop downstairs?" Now, I love coffee as much as the next guy, but come on. It was clear he was scrambling for an escape hatch. At first, I let it slide because, hey, who doesn't want to bond over coffee? But after the 3rd or 4th attempt to dodge accountability, I stopped biting. Instead of following his conversational detour, I calmly redirected. "We'll check out the coffee shop later. Right now, let's get back to the deadline." Here's the humor. Liars are like magicians. They want you to look at the shiny object, the coffee shop, while they quietly slip the truth out of sight. But as the audience, it's your job to keep your eyes on the trick, not the distraction. The deeper Stoic lesson? Don't let someone else's avoidance dictate your focus. A true Stoic observes calmly, redirects firmly, and doesn't let emotional responses cloud their judgment. If someone keeps changing the subject, ask yourself, what is it they're so uncomfortable addressing? And remember, maintaining composure doesn't mean being passive. It means standing your ground with quiet confidence, like a rock unmoved by the tide. Let them try their verbal acrobatics, but stay rooted. The truth, no matter how buried, has a way of surfacing when faced with unwavering clarity. Section 2. Listening as a tool for truth. In the game of spotting lies, your ears are your sharpest weapon. Stoicism teaches us to observe and understand before reacting, and nowhere is this more relevant than when you're trying to uncover dishonesty. The way people speak and the things they choose not to say can reveal more than they realize. Listening isn't just about hearing words, it's about catching what's between the lines. When someone is lying, they often fumble with unnecessary details or leave glaring gaps. It's like they're trying to build a house of cards. One wrong move and the whole thing collapses. Take this for example. A buddy of mine once told me he couldn't make it to an important event because traffic was a nightmare. Now, I get it. Traffic happens. But when I asked what road he was stuck on, there was a long pause, followed by, that one by, the mall. The problem? He was talking about a mall in a different city. If I hadn't been truly listening, I might have missed that crack in his story. Turns out, he'd skipped the event to go golfing with another group of friends. A good listener picks up on these cracks. They don't just nod along and move on. They lean in, ask thoughtful follow-ups, and let silence do the heavy lifting. Yes, silence. It's a tactic straight out of the Stoic playbook. Silence can be disarming. When you're quiet, it forces the other person to fill the void, and liars often fill it with more lies. Marcus Aurelius himself advised us to listen closely, even to those who oppose you, because the truth has a way of revealing itself when given space. Listening to a liar is like watching someone try to defuse a bomb they built themselves. They start sweating, over-explaining, and using phrases like, "Trust me," or "Why would I lie?" As if that's ever a reassuring thing to hear. Listening also lets you observe tone and pace. Is the person overly enthusiastic about a mundane story? Are they suddenly talking faster, like they're trying to rush through the conversation? It's not about catching someone in a gotcha moment, but understanding what doesn't add up naturally. One of the most stoic things you can do is stay calm and focused when someone is spinning a yarn. Don't interrupt, don't argue, just listen. Let them tie themselves in knots if they're lying. When you calmly say, "That's interesting, can you explain a bit more?" their reaction will speak volumes. So the next time you suspect someone isn't being entirely truthful, channel your inner Stoic philosopher. Sit back, let them talk, and listen like your peace depends on it, because frankly, it does. Section 3. The over-defensive reaction. If there's one thing liars excel at, it's turning a simple question into a full-blown courtroom drama. You ask a harmless query like, "Did you get a chance to send that email?" And suddenly they're delivering a monologue fit for an Oscar, complete with righteous indignation, a lengthy backstory, and maybe even some tears for good measure. The over-defensive reaction is a classic move. In their haste to prove innocence, liars often overcompensate, making mountains out of molehills. And here's the catch. Stoicism teaches us that those who react emotionally often reveal the most about themselves. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change." Notice the difference. An honest person stays open to questions. A liar treats them like an attack. I once had a colleague, let's call him Dave, who was supposed to finish a report. When I casually asked, "Hey, how's the report coming along?" Dave launched into a full-blown defense. "Why are you asking? I've been working on it non-stop. I stayed late last night. I even skipped dinner." He kept going, throwing in completely unrelated details about how he's been overworked and how nobody appreciates him. You know what he didn't do? Show me the report. What's funny is that when people react like this, they think they're convincing you. But all they're really doing is making their guilt louder. A calm, measured response would have sufficed. "Oh, I'm wrapping it up. Should have it soon." Instead, Dave built an elaborate wall of defensiveness because he knew the report wasn't even started. Here's where Stoic wisdom comes in. Epictetus famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When someone reacts disproportionately to a simple question, they're revealing more about their internal turmoil than they'd like. They're not upset with you, they're upset with themselves for getting caught or for knowing they're falling short. Humor helps here. Watching someone get overly defensive is like watching a squirrel try to hide a nut in plain sight. They're frantically covering it up, but the hole's still there, and so is the nut. It's almost endearing, but also a clear signal that they're scrambling to protect something, usually the truth. When you encounter this behavior, don't react emotionally. Stoics believed in maintaining composure in the face of chaos. If someone is getting defensive, don't escalate the situation by challenging them directly. Instead, stay calm and ask more questions. "Oh no, Rush, I was just curious. When do you think it'll be done?" A liar might get even more frazzled, revealing their cracks further. The key takeaway: genuine people don't feel the need to defend their actions so aggressively. Their honesty speaks for itself. But when someone reacts to a gentle nudge, like you've accused them of a federal crime, you're probably on to something. Stay curious, stay calm, and let their defensiveness do the talking. It's like peeling back layers of an onion, except in this case, the onion is sweating profusely and shouting, "Why would you even ask?" Section 4. The perfect story fallacy. Have you ever listened to someone tell a story so flawless, so neatly tied up, that it felt like they were auditioning for a Netflix drama? Every detail is immaculately placed, the timing is impeccable, and there's not a single loose thread. It's captivating but also suspicious. Life isn't scripted, and the truth, more often than not, is a little messy around the edges. In Stoic philosophy, truth is seen as simple and self-evident. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Yet liars operate under a different principle. If it sounds believable enough, people won't ask questions. That's where the perfect story fallacy comes in. They craft a narrative so polished it gleams, and in its gleam, it blinds you. I remember a neighbor, let's call him Tom, who once bragged about an unbelievable fishing trip. According to him, he landed a record-breaking base in a secluded lake, with no one around to witness it, of course. He went on about the exact weight, the way the sun glinted off the scales, and how he wrestled with the fish for precisely 23 minutes and 17 seconds before triumphantly holding it up. By the time he described the applause he imagined from woodland creatures, I knew I was listening to a tall tale. The problem with perfect stories is that they're too perfect. They lack the unexpected hiccups and inconsistencies that give the truth its natural rhythm. Real-life details are often mundane or chaotic. No one recalls a precise minute count for wrestling a fish. They're too busy flailing and hoping the line doesn't snap. From a Stoic perspective, the perfect story fallacy reminds us of the dangers of being swept up by appearances. Epictetus warned, "Circumstances don't make the man, they only reveal him to himself." Similarly, a flawless story doesn't make it true. It often reveals the storyteller's desperation to be believed. A perfect story is like a suspiciously well-behaved toddler. It's too good to be true, and you know chaos is lurking nearby. Ask a couple of follow-up questions and watch the cracks appear. What kind of bait did you use? Oh, worms! What kind of worms? The, wiggly ones. Suddenly, the confidence unravels. When faced with a perfect story, Stoicism advises us to stay grounded. Don't let a flashy narrative cloud your judgment. Instead, ask yourself, does this align with reality, or does it sound like it's been rehearsed? And if it's the latter, you don't need to call them out immediately. Let the inconsistencies speak for themselves. The deeper Stoic insight here is about embracing imperfection. Real honesty doesn't strive for perfection because it doesn't need to. It's raw, unpolished, and content to stand as it is. A perfect story, on the other hand, is often a sign someone's trying too hard to make you believe them. So the next time you hear a tale that feels like it's ready for a movie deal, don't just admire the production value, dig a little deeper. Authenticity doesn't need special effects. And if their story starts to crumble under simple questions, congratulations, you've just spotted the perfect story fallacy in action. Section 5. The language of the body. When it comes to spotting a lie, the body often tells a story that the mouth cannot conceal. In Stoicism, we are taught to observe the world with clarity and patience. This practice isn't just for philosophy. It's a powerful tool for understanding people. Our bodies betray us when we're not aligned with truth. It's almost poetic. The mouth can weave tales, but the body whispers honesty. Picture this. You're asking a colleague a straightforward question about a project deadline. And as they answer, their torso angles slightly away from you. Their feet point toward the door, and they're fidgeting with their pen like it's suddenly the most fascinating object in the room. Their words may be assuring you everything is on track, but their body is practically screaming, "I'm hiding something." Stoic wisdom teaches us to stay composed and not jump to conclusions. Marcus Aurelius said, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." So instead of reacting, observe. What is their body trying to say? Are they avoiding eye contact, crossing their arms defensively, or suddenly leaning away? These subtle cues often reveal more than their rehearsed explanations. I once had a neighbor, let's call him Bob, who borrowed my tools just for the weekend. After 3 weeks of no sign of my drill, I asked him about it. He immediately started scratching his neck, crossing his arms, and pacing slightly, even as he assured me, "Oh yeah, I was just about to bring it over." Now the words were what I wanted to hear, but his fidgety body language told me I'd be lucky to see that drill again in my lifetime. Sure enough, it took another 2 weeks of gentle reminders to get it back. The beauty of Stoicism is learning to respond, not react. Instead of saying, "Bob, your shifty body language tells me you've probably lost my drill," I calmly reminded him of its importance to me. Staying composed gave him no room to evade further. Here's the humorous irony. Liars often think they're being clever by controlling their words, but their bodies are like overzealous teammates, spilling the strategy to the opposing side. A twitch here, a shifted gaze there. It's all the evidence you need to question their narrative. When you're reading body language, Stoicism reminds us not to take things personally. Epictetus advised us to differentiate between what's within our control and what isn't. Someone else's discomfort or dishonesty doesn't reflect on your worth. It's their inner conflict bubbling to the surface. Stay grounded in your observations and don't let their squirms distract you from seeking the truth. Here's a practical takeaway. Next time someone's response feels off, check their body language. Are they leaning into the conversation or pulling away? Are their gestures relaxed and congruent with their words? Or are they overcompensating with too much hand movement? A liar's body may not shout, but it definitely mumbles in ways you can't ignore. If you've ever spotted a lie based on body language, share your story in the comments below. Let's compare notes. you might just teach the rest of us a new trick for spotting the truth. Section 6. Humor as a shield. Humor is one of the most disarming tools in any liar's toolkit. When the truth gets uncomfortable, a quick joke or laugh can redirect the mood and deflect attention from the real issue. Stoicism teaches us to look beyond the surface of things and focus on what truly matters, which makes it the perfect philosophy to tackle this tactic. After all, as Epictetus reminds us, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Let's imagine you're trying to have a serious conversation with a friend. You ask, "Did you tell Jim about my plans?" And instead of answering directly, they laugh and say, "Come on, I don't even remember what I had for breakfast. How could I remember that?" It's clever, sure, but it's also a way to avoid accountability. Their humor may make you chuckle for a second, but if you look closer, it's just a shiny wrapper covering a flimsy excuse. I once had a co-worker who could dodge a direct question like an Olympic hurdler. I asked them about missing files, and instead of a straight answer, they grinned and said, "Oh, you think I'm the villain in this story? Trust me, I'd make a terrible villain. I can't even keep track of my coffee cup." Sure, everyone in the room laughed, but I wasn't buying it. The files didn't magically reappear, and their quip didn't absolve them of responsibility. Humor in these situations isn't just about lightening the mood. It's about steering the conversation away from the truth. It's a defense mechanism, and when done well, it can make the accuser feel like they're being overly serious or even petty for pushing further. But as Marcus Aurelius wisely noted, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Stay grounded in your intent to uncover the truth, even when the person in front of you is playing court jester. Here's the thing about using humor to deflect. It's a short-term strategy that relies on people's discomfort with confrontation. Most of us want to avoid awkward situations, and a well-placed joke can make us second-guess pressing further. But Stoicism reminds us not to shy away from discomfort if it leads to clarity. Humor may momentarily shift the energy, but it doesn't erase the need for honesty. A practical example? Think of humor as a smoke screen. When someone cracks a joke during a serious conversation, acknowledge the humor, but gently steer the discussion back to the point. Something like, "That's funny, but seriously, did you send that email?" It shows you're not easily sidetracked and that you value honesty over avoiding tension. Humor is powerful. It can connect people, lighten the mood, and build rapport. But when it's used as a shield, it reveals more about the person wielding it than they probably intend. Stoicism teaches us to remain unfazed by distractions and focus on the truth. As Seneca advised, it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. A liar's craving for comfort and escape is what drives their use of humor, but you don't have to indulge it. So the next time someone dodges with a joke, ask yourself, are they genuinely light-hearted, or are they hoping you'll drop the subject? If you've ever seen humor used as a clever dodge, share your experience in the comments. I'd love to hear your stories. Section 7. The fog of vagueness. There's an art to saying nothing while appearing to say a lot. Some people are masters of this skill, and when caught in a web of dishonesty, they wield vagueness like a smoke bomb. Rather than offer clarity, they provide roundabout answers, loaded with filler words and phrases that sound meaningful, but ultimately reveal nothing. Stoicism teaches us the value of truth and precision. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Vagueness is the antithesis of this principle. Picture this. You ask someone, "Hey, did you handle that report like you said you would?" Instead of a straightforward yes or no, they say, "Oh, I've been super swamped lately, but I'm definitely on it. Just trying to line everything up, you know how it is." Translation, they didn't do it, but they're hoping the fog of vague language will hide that fact long enough for you to drop the subject. I once had a friend who was the king of ambiguity. If you asked him where he'd been over the weekend, he'd say something like, "Oh, just running around, staying busy. You know how weekends are." Sure, weekends can be busy, but that's not an answer. Turns out he'd been dodging me because he didn't want to admit he'd bailed on plans to do something else. Lesson learned. The vaguer the response, the more likely there's a truth they're trying to avoid. Stoicism emphasizes clarity of thought and action, reminding us to avoid getting lost in the fog of others' evasiveness. As Epictetus said, when someone acts untrustworthy, they act according to their nature, but you can act according to yours. When faced with vague answers, we must remain calm and deliberate, gently pressing for specifics without allowing their ambiguity to frustrate or derail us. The humor here, it's like trying to nail jello to a wall. Every time you think you've pinned something down, it wobbles away in another direction. The more they ramble, the less sense they make, and sometimes it's almost impressive how far they'll go to avoid a clear answer. But remember, this isn't a debate, it's a subtle power move. Their goal is to confuse you just enough that you let it slide. When you sense the fog of vagueness creeping in, don't get angry or exasperated. Instead, approach it with the stoic calm of someone who sees through the illusion. For example, if someone gives you a murky answer, try asking follow-up questions that bring them back to reality. I hear you've been busy, but did you actually finish the task, yes or no? This tactic cuts through the haze and forces them to confront the truth. Stoicism also teaches us to focus on what we can control. While you can't force someone to give you a clear answer, you can control your own response. Instead of getting lost in their verbal maze, stay grounded and persistent. Vagueness thrives on distraction. Your determination to seek clarity will often make their evasiveness crumble. Here's a personal trick I've learned. If someone is consistently vague, I treat it like a bad weather forecast. I don't plan my day around it. I either accept the uncertainty or move forward without relying on them. It saves time, energy, and frustration. The deeper lesson, when people use vagueness to avoid accountability, they're showing you who they really are, someone who values self-preservation over honesty. Recognizing this can help you decide how much trust to place in them moving forward. Stoicism urges us to act with reason and integrity, so while we can acknowledge their vagueness, we must stay committed to clarity in our own lives. Have you ever experienced a situation where someone's vagueness left you spinning? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear how you cut through the fog and found the truth. We've just unpacked 7 key signs to help you spot lies and navigate the tangled web of deception. Whether it's the polished story, the defensive reaction, or the fog of vagueness, these tactics are everywhere, but with the right mindset, you can rise above them. Remember, Stoicism isn't just about understanding others. It's about mastering yourself. When you stay grounded, calm, and focused on what you can control, no lie can destabilize your inner peace. Now here's your challenge. Start observing conversations more closely this week. Pay attention to the subtle signs we discussed. Body language, tone, and those dodgy, vague answers. Don't confront aggressively. Instead, practice calm detachment. Ask yourself, how can I respond with clarity and confidence? Once you've done this, share your experience in the comments below. Did you spot a sign that someone wasn't being entirely truthful? How did you handle it? Let's start a conversation about how Stoic principles can guide us through these everyday challenges. And don't forget, honesty starts with you. If you want truth from others, commit to being truthful in your own words and actions. It's not just about spotting lies, it's about creating a life built on integrity and trust. Stay sharp, stay grounded, and keep striving for the truth. See you in the next video.